Hi, I'm Toby, I'm 35, and my own body seems to be trying to kill me. I was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis in 2008, I believe, and I'm now at the point where I have to go in for a liver transplant. So I've started that process now, and hopefully this vlog will be my diary, a bit like the Big Brother diary room, where I get a chance to just kind of let things out, but also help people who are interested, or help people who might actually go through this themselves, so they get an idea of, what other people's experiences are like. A little bit about me, I suppose, so you guys can get to know me a little bit. I'm a trainee teacher in a primary school, and I absolutely love that job. Not something I actually thought I was going to get into, kind of landed in it, and wouldn't do anything else now. I just absolutely love it. I love reading, science, horror, have an unusual love for anything zombie related. I think this really started at university when I formed the Zombie Society at my university, and I think I used that as an excuse to basically make anything interesting. I was convinced that I could use the idea of zombies to make any topic interesting, so we did all sorts of things from first aid. I taught about biology and psychology, all sorts of random things, using zombies as the platform. And yeah, it was just an excuse to have a load of fun. So hopefully over the next however long it is, you guys will get to know me a little bit more. I'm not a professional vlogger. In fact, I've never done this before, so please don't expect professional quality from me. And in fact, in the future, some of the videos may well be taken by me holding my phone in the hospital while I'm lying on a hospital bed and not able to move. So if I start now without giving you cinematic quality, then maybe it won't be such a shock when I get to that stage. So what is autoimmune hepatitis? Autoimmune hepatitis, basically, my own body is rejecting my liver. So if you know, when you have an organ transplant, sometimes your body will reject it as if it is a foreign body. My own body is doing that to my liver. So the scientists and biologists don't really understand what causes it. It's thought to have a mixture of things that contribute to it, mainly a genetic cause, combined with an environmental biological trigger. So for me, I'm fairly convinced, when I was about 15, I think it was, or 14, I got very ill because I got the Campylobacter virus bacteria from poorly handled chicken, and that put me in hospital for about a week on a drip, and it was very painful and unpleasant. And I actually, looking back, I think that may have been the trigger for my autoimmune hepatitis, because that's the biggest viral incident that I had, or disease type incident that I had in my childhood. The treatment for autoimmune hepatitis is really to reduce the amount of damage that your immune system is doing to your liver, and the way to do that really is to pretty much cripple your immune system. So you take certain drugs, most commonly azathioprine and prednisolone, and they reduce your immune system to the point where they're not causing as much damage to your liver. It isn't a cure, and it won't always stop the damage completely. In fact, I think rarely it stops the damage completely. So it is a progressive chronic disease, where your liver will get worse and worse and worse over time, and you will get what's called cirrhosis, or scarring of the liver. Now, as you probably have heard, the liver is very good at healing, and in fact you can cut off half of your liver, donate it to somebody else, and it will grow back. But once you get to the point of scarring, the liver cannot heal. Excuse me, adjusting my seat. The liver cannot heal, and you're stuck with a non-functioning liver. And that's obviously not nice, because the liver is very important for a lot of roles in the body, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when I start talking about the liver anatomy, and we look at various things. So my vlog will go through a lot of different things. I will look at some of the medications I'm taking, the side effects. I will look at a variety of the surgeries and tests and things that I've been through, all sorts of things, so you guys can get an idea of all that's been going on to get me to this point. Talking of getting me to this point, I mentioned that I was diagnosed in 2008 I believe it was. But actually there were things that happened before then. So sometime before then, I had a very painful attack, and it's on the side, like in the upper right hand side, near the bottom part of your ribs. It was an excruciating pain. It felt like I was being stabbed. And I was actually on holiday in Dorset at the time, and we went to a GP, did some tests, and he couldn't really tell me what was wrong. Gave me some antibiotics, sent me home, and said, go see your GP at home. A few days later, it had kind of cleared up, so I didn't bother going to the GP, and that was out for that time. Then, a couple of years later, I had another incident. Went into the local hospital at the time, and again, they couldn't really figure out what was wrong. I was given some painkillers, and luckily it cleared up at the time. So at this point I was getting a little frustrated, because I was like, okay, there's something wrong, and this is now the second time this has happened, but people aren't telling me they can't tell me what's wrong, and that's quite unnerving to know that there's something wrong with your body, but people can't really figure out what. And especially because the solution just seems to be, well, you know what, we'll sit and wait and you seem to get better. So I warned you, I'm not a professional vlogger. Unfortunately, children screaming and a sudden downpour of rain brought that video to a quick end. So anyway, I'm back here in my flat, and we'll continue. So the final one before diagnosis was in 2008, and I was living with one of my best friends at the time in central London. And I woke up that morning with a very, very bad pain, worse than it had been on either of the previous occasions. Absolutely excruciating pain in my side. And my friend managed to support me as we hobbled down to the A&E that was nearby. And I stood in A&E, and this is in the middle of, I believe it was swine flu. So everyone with the slightest sniffle was in there convinced they had swine flu. So it was actually really crowded, and the process was going quite slowly, so I'm standing there waiting, and this pain was unbelievable. I actually genuinely believed I was going to die right there. I thought, my kidneys have packed up, everything inside me is dying, that's it, I'm going to die right here on the floor of A&E. At one point I think I actually did just curl up on the bench and whimper. From the look of my best friend's face, he was pretty convinced I was going to die too at that point, I think. So he ran around pretty much begging the nurses to see me and to give me some painkillers. He was clearly very concerned about me, and I was just in untold pain. So I finally got to see the nurse, and the triage nurse, and she was like, okay, so what's wrong with you? And I was like, I've got this absolutely agonizing pain in my side, and it really hurts so bad. And she's like, wait, you haven't got swine flu? I'm like, no. And she's like, oh, thank God. So clearly it was a busy day for her too. But I went into hospital. I got admitted first as an outpatient and then as an overnight. And I actually spoke to one of the doctors there, and they looked at me and said, look, I hope you don't mind, but we're not letting you go until we know what's wrong. And my answer was just, thank you, please, just figure this out for me. And what they did is they did various tests, and they could see that my liver was not functioning properly. They did MRIs and all sorts of things. And they came to the diagnosis of autoimmune hepatitis by basically looking at things like blood tests and going, okay, well, your liver's not working, and then ruling out the other causes of autoimmune hepatitis, like the viral hepatitis or alcoholic hepatitis or fatty liver disease. So it's basically a process of elimination to come up with the diagnosis of autoimmune hepatitis. Once nothing else fits, that's all that's left. So I was diagnosed in 2008 and started my medication then, and I met my first liver consultant, liver specialist, who I was with for some years. And then I switched to another liver specialist a few years ago, and he's the gentleman who's seeing me through this process now.